As the farmers' protest is gathering pace and becoming widespread, and the laws being put to constitutional test in the courts, it is high time that we elaborately look into the provisions under which they have been framed. In this discussion, Ping focuses on the following four major constitutional issues with respect to farm laws. Number 1, whether the laws are constitutional or not. Number 2, whether they have been made under the correct provisions of the Constitution. Number 3, whether the center had the powers of making these laws. And number 4, whether right procedures were followed to make these laws.
Hello everyone, welcome to yet another session of Ping. We would like to thank all of you for your support and encouragement with respect to our previous videos. And in this session today, we are going to discuss about the constitutionality of the 3 farm laws which have been brought for reforming the agriculture markets. So without much delay, let us start our discussion. First of all, we would like to know from you, Dharmendra, what do you think about the constitutionality of these laws and under what provisions of the Constitution these laws have been brought?
As all of you are aware that agriculture is a state subject. It has been kept in state list, entry 14.
Okay.
And rightly so, because agriculture is a diversified area. That is why it has been kept there. But these laws have been brought under entry 33 of Concurrent List, which talks about trade and commerce, production, supply and distribution of agricultural products and industrial products.
Let us try to understand the issues more elaborately, starting from the basics. As we all know, there are 3 lists given under Article 246 and elaborated in the 7th schedule of the Constitution. List 1, or the Union List, where the Union or the central government has the power to make laws. List 2, or the State List, includes those subject items on which the states have the power to make laws. And List 3, or the Concurrent List, includes those subject items on which both union and states can make laws. We also know that agriculture is an item included under entry 14 of the state list. But these laws have been made under entry 33 of the Concurrent List. Entry 33 of the Concurrent List is related to trade and commerce in and the production, supply and distribution of A. products of any industry, B. foodstuffs including edible oilseeds and oils, C. cattle fodder including oil cakes and other concentrates, D. raw cotton and cotton seeds, and E. raw jute.
So what do you think, is it justified for the center to bring the law in the Concurrent List under entry 33?
To understand this, we will have to get into the background of entry 33.
Okay.
Entry 33 was amended in year 1954. We will have to understand that what were the provisions before that. At the time of independence, when Constitution was made, our Constitution makers, they were very clear that agriculture is such an area, it is so diversified that it is better kept in state list. And that is how they made the Constitution. But they were also aware of the prevailing circumstances, that under such circumstances, it is needed that union government should have some power over the issue of production, supply and distribution of agriculture products.
So those circumstances were related to the backdrop of, immediately after independence.
Yes.
Like there was a partition of the country.
Yes.
There was lack of federal stability. The federal structure was emerging. There were issues related to integration
Yes.
of states in India.
Yes.
And also there were issues which were related to distribution of food supplies, shortages.
Yes.
Because of those issues, maybe you
Yes, of course. Yes.
Okay.
This was the reason that why constitution makers, they had introduced one article 369,
Okay.
which right now has lapsed. Actually, it was supposed to be a temporary provision only for 5 years. So their opinion was this, that in these prevailing circumstances, let us add a temporary provision where union government will be allowed to make law specific for the purpose of production, supply and distribution of agricultural products for a very temporary period of 5 years.
Okay. And trade and commerce was also there, right?
Trade and commerce was also there,
Okay.
of course.
Okay.
Now, it was not intended, of course, for the very reason that agriculture is a diversified sector. The constitution maker, they did not intend that a general reform should be brought under this entry. So what they did, that when these laws were about to be lapsed, within 5 years, it was a temporary law for 5 years. When it was about to be lapsed, government realized that those circumstances have yet not changed. So they wanted to continue this power of the union to make laws regarding, production, supply and distribution of agricultural products
Okay.
through some way. So they found out a way that they introduced the provisions of this Article 369, which was about to get lapsed, into Entry 33, which earlier talked about production, supply and distribution of industrial products only.
Okay. So you mean to say that earlier the scope of Entry 33 was less?
Yes.
It included only industrial products?
Yes.
And then later on they brought in agricultural products also into it.
Yes. And the temporary provision was made permanent.
So
Now, probably this was done.
This could also be because the scenario, as you mentioned, did not change.
Yes.
And maybe also because the government could not, at that point of time, probably, there enough optimism could not be generated with respect to the transformation of the agriculture sector, and the problem of food supply and all could be resolved.
Yes.
Probably that was the reason.
Yes, of course, we are talking about pre-Green Revolution era, and government was not aware that such a thing is going to happen and we are going to become self-sufficient in the food grain sector.
Okay.
So they could not anticipate that when these circumstances are going to end. So instead of continuing a temporary provision or extending its limits, say for another 5 years, they might have brought, a permanent provision through this route. But what we need to understand in this is that this provision was not supposed to be used for the purpose of bringing general reforms.
For our better understanding, let us try to quickly summarize few points. Because of the then prevailing circumstances related to federal instability and shortage of food and supplies, the constitution makers included a temporary provision in the constitution in the form of Article 369. This article was included for a period of 5 years and gave power to the union to legislate on certain items related to trade, commerce and production, supply and distribution as if they were in the concurrent list. The scope of this article was similar to what is now in Entry 33 of the Constitution. When Article 369 was about to get lapsed and the circumstances did not change much, the temporary provisions of this article were made permanent by including its provision under Entry 33 of the Concurrent List by the Third Amendment Act 1954. Earlier, Entry 33 was related to industrial products only, but after this amendment, it also included agriculture-related products.
So Dharmendra, what do you think? Under what circumstances union government should use Entry 33 of the Concurrent List to legislate then?
See, if you see original intent of Entry 33, then it doesn't seem that this entry was brought in for the purpose of bringing in general reforms. Rather, it was for very specific purpose in case of any emergent and grave concern. If we talk about constitutionality of laws, then you'll have to see both letter and spirit. Then yes, in letter, it seems that the laws are constitutional, which are brought under Entry 33, especially after 1954 amendment. But if we talk about constitutional morality and federal values, then ideally speaking, these laws should have been brought by the state governments.
Okay. So you mean to say that on the question of constitutional morality, these laws will not be able to sustain?
Yes.
Just because the scope of entry 33, it seems to be quite narrow.
Yes.
Not only the original intention, but otherwise also the very purpose why our entry 33 should be used to make law is something which is very specific, and it should not have been used for the purpose of making law in general for transformation of agriculture sector.
One needs to understand that the process of reform is so comprehensive, especially in an area like agriculture, which is so diversified. We need to have participative democracy. We need to have participative consultative governance. That is very important. It is only then there will be acceptability.
So as we have been saying that, ideally it would have been better that the state should have brought these laws. The reform process should have been taken by the state. But anyhow, suppose in case if the center had to make the law, looking only from the constitutional viewpoint, that if the center has to make the law, then what do you think, under what provision it would have been better that these laws should have been brought by the center?
Well, if the values of constitutional morality and federal values have to be respected, then I think that these laws should have been brought under Article 252, where two or more states could have asked the union to bring in these laws. The party which is in power at center, it could have asked those states where the party is in power to ask for these laws, and they could have set an example for other states to emulate.
Right.
They could have given some flexibility to the states in adopting these laws.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. There seems to be a lot of criticism regarding the manner in which the government has brought these laws. What do you think about the procedure that has been adopted from constitutional aspects?
Well, the concerns regarding the procedure in which these laws have been brought seems to be legitimate.
Okay.
Earlier, these laws were brought through ordinance. You need to understand that ordinance making power is for some emergent issue, some issue of urgency, rather than using ordinance for the purpose of bringing comprehensive reforms.
Right.
Another issue is that even though the demand was regarding sending these laws to select committee or parliamentary standing committee, but it was not done.
That was not
Whenever you are bringing some reforms, you need to discuss them comprehensively, especially in a forum like standing committees, where there is a diversified membership of all the parties. Third concern was regarding the way in which they have been passed in the Rajya Sabha. You need to understand that there is a Rule 252 which says that, the voting could be conducted through voice vote. But if there is a challenge to it, if there are concerns regarding some of the members of the parliament.
And there were members who had raised the concerns also, right?
Yes, in Rajya Sabha it was done.
Yeah.
These members, they challenged that we are not satisfied with the voice vote. And in that condition, Rule 252 of the Rajya Sabha says that in such condition, the deputy chairman or chairman, whoever is the presiding officer, he is bound to conduct division vote and count it properly. But it was not done.
Okay. So viewers, here we come to the end of this session. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll keep bringing to you videos on relevant issues. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.